aspects of online learning, first we need to understand that nowadays why there is a need of the creation of online learning environment. We all know the students nowadays are using technology. So when I'm saying technology, most of them are using technology for the entertainment purposes. So students are using Facebook, students are using Instagram, students are using Snapchat, they are using WhatsApp for messaging purposes. So they are using technology to develop connections with the family, with the friends, with entertainment. But at the same time, it is very true that when as a teacher I'm giving any activity or assignment to the student, rather than going to a physical library, my students are in the habit of finding that information by using internet facility. So they are not using technology for entertainment purposes, but at the same time they are using technology for their educational activities also. So technology allow them to connect with more people. They find out different ways, and moreover, when we said different ways, they are able to have transition from real environment to the digital life. So our student, when we talk about a student population, specifically in a teaching learning environment, earlier also it was considered that teaching is a very complex profession. So Leah Schulman, educationist, said, after some 30 years of analyzing teaching, I have concluded that classroom teaching is perhaps the most complex, most challenging, most demanding, subtle, nonsense, and frightening activity that our species has ever invented. So, when it comes to the teaching profession, earlier also, when we are in the habit of teaching our students in an offline environment where in a class there are maybe for 50 or 30 or maybe 80 students sitting together, and we as a teacher delivering instructions to them, there are a number of questions arised by the student. There may be complexity in that particular learning environment, and teaching become more complex because teachers need to make certain decisions while working with the students in a classroom environment. Nowadays also, when we have digitally native generation available with us, this particular complexity increased manyfold. At present, when we are teaching to our students, students are not just listening to us, they are not just analyzing information, but by simply by using their smartphones or their digital devices, they cross verify the information that is delivered by the faculty. So maybe when you are dealing with the topic in a classroom environment, in an offline environment, at that time also students are using different resources. Students are using different website to capture the amount of information they need to have related to that particular topic. So the point of discussion is teaching was complex, teaching is now also complex, but the question arises in an offline environment when I'm saying that I'm engaging class in a physical environment. In a concrete classroom, I'm engaging my 30 to 50 students for a given subject. At that time, maybe I'm using the modality of offline learning environment, but when my students are connected with the technology, they are analyzing that information, they are able to shift from the real life to the digital life also while sitting in the same environment. So as a teacher, I will not assess information in front of my student when I'm delivering information to them. I may assess information when I'm preparing for that particular lecture or for that particular topic. But when my students are in my class with me in my presence also, they cross verified information, they can ask questions to me, or they may have advanced information as compared to the information that is delivered by me. Because when we said digitally native generation, digitally native students are able to do multitasking, they are able to collect information from multiple resources at a given time. So when we said teaching is a difficult profession,
हाँ
so
जी मैम,
teaching is a yes, is there any
बताने
problem? So when we said teaching is a
हो सकता
complex
है
activity, so when it is said teaching, teaching is a conscious streams of decision made before, during, after the instruction, implementation of which will increase the probability. It is not that as a teacher when I prepared. So 99.2% of the faculty members while filling the questionnaire said that they are able to define learning outcome, and they also make ensure that many of the students are able to achieve those learning outcomes. So when we said the learning take place, it means the probability of that learning need increase. But as a teacher in a classroom environment, I need to prepare for my course plan first. I need to design different learning outcomes for my students, and based on the instructional method and media selected by the teacher during the class, also the teacher may need to shift to the different method or may need to shift to the different media. So teacher has multiple activities to perform while dealing with the students in offline as well as online learning environment. And there are many definitions of effective teacher available in the literature. So what makes an excellent teacher recognizable may be the combination of competence, skillful relationship and character, empathy, a positive view of others, self and authenticity, influenced by the need of the student and family by whom the teacher will work. So when you said that infrastructure facilities available for the students 24 into 7, reimbursement is given to the faculty member in terms of if they are using their own resources for teaching learning activities. So our major stakeholders are the student in any educational institutions and their families. So when we shift from offline to online learning environment, we need to focus upon what kind of technological resources available with our student. And when I'm giving and assigning them few of the activities that are online, whether they have access to those resources. If at institute level those resources are provided to the student, it means it is not a digital pressure that we are causing among student population, but students are able to utilize the resources available at institute level and able to be or able to become efficiently the part of that online learning environment. So when we said teaching in 21st century, so we already discussed that in this particular century we have new generation students. At the same time, education system is facing many changes, and we have lot of demands in terms of learning spaces also. So when we said new generation student, earlier we said these students are able to make shift from their real life to the digital life. So when we said digitally native student, they have different kind of digital expectations. So their demand from that particular learning environment, their expectation as a student from that learning environment is different. So in their own personal life also, they are shifting from one technological resources to another resource at a very fast rate. So earlier students were using Facebook for social connection. Nowadays, they consider Facebook as an obsolete platform. They shifted to Instagram. Earlier, they were from text messages to WhatsApp messages, and nowadays students do not much willing to use those WhatsApp platform. They shifted to Snapchat kind of a social platform. They shifted from digital television resources to different kind of video streaming platforms. So they are able to create content. They are able to record their videos. They are able to edit their videos. They are able to upload their videos from at different platforms. So when we said they are socially connected with each other, so there are different kind of learning communities or different kind of communities on different media platforms available with whom the student is connected. So when they are connected with large number of audiences digitally, they may have different kind of digital fluency, they may have different kind of digital expectations from the institutions itself. So when we said they are digitally native, they are fluent in every sphere of life. It is not that they are just capturing the information, educational information by the use of um, technological resources, but in their own personal life also, when they are connected with each other, they have digital fluency developed day by day, and they are very open when it comes to use technology at different level. So students, when they are socially connected with each other, new generation students may demand 4 into 7 resources available with them. So when we said the students are shifting from one resource to another resource, it means Their digital expectation is 24 into 7 internet connectivity need to be there. If internet connectivity disconnected for a while or not available with the student, might be they do not feel the part of that particular environment. So when they are connected with each other, their demand in terms of digital resources may vary. So at institution level, when we set new generation student, there may be few characteristics that we all analyze. The characteristics of next generation student mesh very closely with IT and its increasing mobility. It's 24 into 7 availability and its increasing value as a communication tool. So there is a new trend nowadays among student population. They do not write messages. They simply record their audio messages and transfer to one to another individual. So that is a new thing that I observed while interacting with many of the students nowadays. So we as a teacher are in the habit of writing those long text messages and transferring to one and another after checking many a times that what we have written. But student within no time they record their audio message and send to another individual. So that is their digital fluency they developed as compared to our population as a faculty. So next generation students are social and team oriented, comfortable with multitasking, and generally positive in their outlook and have a hands-on, let's build it approach. So they are competing with each other, but in a collaborative way. So they are cooperating with each other for the completion of different activities because they have many IT resources available with them at their disposal. So next generation students have embraced it, using it in one way both intended and unforeseen by the programmers. So nowadays, another example that I would like to share with all of you, earlier 2 to 3 weeks before, I was not aware that students are using Chat GPT for writing their content, for writing their research article, or maybe for the chapters in their dissertations. So after checking the chapters of one or two students, I come to know the kind of proficiency, the kind of excellence they shown in their writing. So when I was interacting with those students, they tell me that whatever specific question you ask to that particular tool, the software is able to give you the responses. Then they simply go to Google, find out the related references, put those references in a content, and finalize the shape of the chapter. So that is the kind of information available with the student. They are able to generate content. They are able to use those resources as per their own need. So their rapid and enthusiastic adoption of IT has in turn influenced its development, particularly with respect to web-based services. So students are way more advanced in terms of their digital fluency as compared to the information available with the student. They are connected with each other on social media. So one student from one given institution may connected with five students of five different institutions. They share their academic information, they share all kind of information with each other, and at the same time they are comparing, they are analyzing information and preparing the content as per their own choice. They generate resources as per their need, and they are very quick when it comes to the adaptation of the space as per the demand of the requirement. They always carry technology. So in the classroom environment, student may have smart devices available with them. So as a teacher, rather than inhibiting the use of those smart devices, I need to understand that that is their choice. But as a teacher, how I can incorporate changes in my teaching that they are using these devices for education purposes rather than for entertainment purposes. So when it comes to the use of technology, we need to understand technological skills. So maybe our students are more connected, maybe they are more personalized when it comes to using technology, but we need to understand that technology skill is available with our student. They are digitally affluent, they are digitally fluent, they can create their own personal spaces, but it is not a concrete definition of integration of technology in teaching learning. To have technology skill is one thing, how to incorporate those technological skills for education purposes, that is the point of concern of the faculty, that how that technical skill knowledge we can incorporate in teaching learning so that student felt engaged in that particular environment. So we need to consider that these characteristics are available with the student, how we are going to incorporate those characteristics in our teaching learning activities. So as a teacher, we need to build a gap between what our students have and how they are going to utilize it for their education purposes. For this, we need to understand what are the different trends that are emerging in education nowadays. So at large, when we talk about education system nowadays, students want flexible kind of learning. So when we said that there are different MOOC courses designed by us as a NITTTR faculty, and there are many of the participants who registered for those MOOC courses and successfully completed those MOOC courses. So there are scheduled courses, there are self-paced courses also. So if the faculty members or students are enrolling for those courses and their success rate of those courses are going to be increased day by day, it means nowadays in education system there is a need of flexible, or there is a need of self-based educational subjects or educational program. So they demand information whenever, wherever they want. So somewhere they do not need a fixed schedule. They need somewhat of a flexibility when it comes to learning. So and there is a need of diverse places of learning also at a student part. To integrate online tools in teaching learning activities, we also need to understand that how these particular generation demand the kind of spaces, what are the different IT applications we can give to them to fulfill their demand. So if it is a group based activity, as a teacher, I must have understanding of cooperative, collaborative or supportive environment I am able to create at institute level, and my learning space need to be the small group of the students can work together, and there are different IT applications available with our student nowadays. If there are learning outcomes designed by the teacher must know the continuous kind of assessment need to be there to assess whether the students are able to achieve those learning outcomes or not. So student must have access to the teachers consultant in their learning spaces. So as a teacher, I must have information related to online formative quizzes or development of e-portfolios. Multitasking, my students have the characteristics of work in a multitasking environment. So I need to understand what kind of learning environment I'm able to create. And there must be integration, or uh, there must be an environment that is full of different tools available with the student where they can actively participate with each other in an online environment. So wireless connectivity need to be there at institute level. My student need to investigate. So when I said students are able to generate resources, students are able to adapt space to their needs, and students always carry technology. It means when I'm giving project based exercises or ill problem to my student will investigate, my student will find out the trial and error and able to perform various skill-based activities. So multiple learning theories need to be understood by me. Integrated lab facilities need to be there. So in that sense also we need to have different resources available with us. So likewise we have a long list of activities that we can give to our student, and student can perform different activities while sitting not in a physical classroom, maybe at a remote location when they are able to connect with each other. So, to integrate technology in teaching learning, other than teaching, the second aspect that we all need to understand is learning. So, learning is a process of acquiring and integrating through a systemized process of instruction, organized experiences varying from knowledge, skill, and understanding that the learner may use or apply in a later situation under the conditions that are different those from the instruction. So learning is a different kind of a thing that we all need to understand. So when it comes to the learning, and the teacher is here to use cooperative and collaborative learning environment, there must be understanding of constructivism and social constructivism. So when we said students are connected with each other by using different social media platform, and they want to interact with each other, they want to have connection, and they have an approach of let's build it, it means process of construction need to be there terms of knowledge also. So when it comes to students are able to make senses of the real world that has not been really changed. So that kind of social environment also need to be created at institute level. So when it comes to when there is a demand of the social constructivism, it means there is a demand of learning communities that need to be developed in any online learning platform. So there are two basic questions that we all need to answer to ourselves before the creation of online learning environment. First, what social engagement and process provide the proper context for learning? Say, for example, as a faculty from the field of chemical engineering, if I said with the help of group discussion method, it is possible for me, or just by creating a discussion forum for my online course, it is possible for me to develop knowledge, skill, and attitude among my students. Somewhere I need to rethink it up again. Maybe a blended approach of learning is useful when it comes to the completion of a technical or a core subject. So whenever we are organizing student in a social setup or a social engagement, we need to consider what context of learning we are going to focus upon. And these kind of social engagement, is it possible for my student to have collection of knowledge, collection of information, and what form of co-participation might be required when engaging learners in these forms of learning, so that we all need to understand. So mainly the teacher can create four different kind of learning communities. The very first one is the learning community focus on learning together, sharing and developing relationship. Is also developed in a physical classroom environment. Students sit together, they learn together, they understand their doubts, they clarify their doubts within the group, within the class, and at the same time, they develop social skills by developing peaceful relationship with each other. When they are working online, the student need to develop the habit of developing communities of practice. Focus on developing the professional practices. Community of inquiry, focus on inquiring about an issue and area. Knowledge community, focusing on developing the knowledge. So the student, as per his or her choice, may be the part of any community, or they may be the part of all kind of community that is essential for the development of their learning. So as a teacher, whenever I am designing an online course for my student, I need to consider the nature of that particular subject. I need to consider how many participants registered for that particular program, what is the maturity level of those particular participant, means what kind of information is desired by that set of people. So if they are matured learner, maybe I need not to have a physical interaction with my candidate, or I need not to organize a discussion based class for my candidate. But if that particular MOOC program, or if that online program is designed specifically for student population, maybe periodically I need to design discussion based classes for those students. I need to create a site for my student where they can interact with each other. I may need to incorporate discussion forum kind of facility so that they can interact with each other, have discussion. As a teacher, I need to ask few questions to my student that are open ended by nature, where students can provide all kind of ideas, all kind of information that they have collected from that particular subject, just to create discussion in that particular environment, making that platform alive. So that is a community of practice that I'm trying to develop. When I'm asking questions to my student, if one student do not know, I allow other student to be the part of that particular discussion and they are able to solve the problem. When I'm creating research project groups at institute level and ask those students to create a platform where they can interact with each other, where they can discuss about their project on day-to-day basis, maybe not connected with each other physically, maybe at a remote location, they're connecting with each other by the use of technology. So that is the community of inquiry I may be able to develop. So at large, we need to develop the knowledge community that focusing on development of the knowledge. So when we said in education, there is a demand of learning spaces. Earlier, we were using the term classroom. Nowadays, instead of using the term classroom, we are using the term learning space or not. So when we said classroom, classroom in any institutions may be the concrete structure earlier, where many of the students sit together and there is an individual faculty who is teaching to those students. So for students also, it is only the faculty who is the knowledge provider. But nowadays, maybe the cafe in your town, maybe the park at your institute, maybe the cafeteria in the institute become a learning space for the student when all information is available online with the student. Maybe when I enrolled for an online program, I may take class 2 at night because that is a self-paced program. Recorded videos available with me at different platform. So when I'm saying learning space, it can be my personalized space. It can be as per my choice. It can be the time period that is selected by me. Earlier, when we are engaging our student in a physical classroom environment, despite of the condition of the student, despite of the ability of the student to capture that information, the student were forced to come to those classes to attend those sessions. But nowadays, as we progress, the requirement in terms of learning spaces changed. So students change as per their own demand. So maybe in a physical classroom also, the scenario of the lecture hall is changed. So there is a smart board, there is a laptop facility available with the student. All the students carry mobile phones. They are not noting down information. They are recording the voice of the faculty and upload it on the website. Notes written in the board given to the student in the form of printout, or maybe students are in the habit of clicking pictures by using their smartphone devices, creating PDF and sharing that information with the rest of the students who are not available. So when we said online learning environment, it is not that we are specifically creating that online learning environment, but in the physical classroom also students are in the habit of integrating technology in teaching learning activities. So again, a scenario, a case study. So a teacher goes to a podium computer, click on the view link, and soon a video conferencing session is displayed on the right hand of the screen. She has arranged to have a colleague of her dropping on the class to discuss a point that is in the particular area of expertise. The class has a conversation with the expert who is at large research institute more than 500 miles away. Students listen to the expert comment, able to pose questions to him using one of three codeless microphones available in the class. On the left hand of the screen, the visiting professor shows some of the images and charts that help explain the concept under discussion. So if the resource is not available at institute, it is not possible for the institute to call the expert from 500 miles away. At the same time, it is possible for the faculty to have interaction with that particular expert, and expert can become the part of that particular when it but it is possible for the teacher to interact with that particular expert, and expert can become the part of that particular classroom environment. So in a physical classroom also, it is possible for the teacher to integrate technology and give experiences. So when we said learning means a systemized kind of experiences, that organized experiences that we are going to give to our students. So that kind of experience can also be created at institute level. At the same time, there may be a demand of collaborative learning spaces. So when we said collaborative learning spaces, say as a teacher, when you are using case study method of teaching, you want to involve your student in role play method of a teaching. You want your students to interact with the students of a different institutions of a different region. So in that particular case, collaborative learning space environment need to be there. So in an institute, there must be facility provided to the student where the entire working environment is able to provide facility in terms of infrastructure resources, network devices where students and faculty can interact with each other. So more integrated work environment for the student and faculty, one that better serve the mobile net generation student as well as the faculty faced with the initial influx of these students into their rank. So when it comes to the demand of the learning space, the teacher need to develop different e-communities. The first thing as a teacher, we need to understand that we must know our learners. So when we said students are very digitally affluent, students are digitally fluent, students are the digital native population, but we need to understand that just by providing technological resources to our student doesn't mean the students are able to use the technological skills. So when we said we as a teacher are going to create that learning environment, we need to understand the pedagogical aspects that we need to consider for the creation of that particular learning environment. So as per the level of the students available with us, what are their social imperatives? What are the pedagogical imperatives that we need to consider? We all need to consider that new educational technologies sometimes are going to add digital pressure to our student population also. So first we need to understand that what kind of students available with us, what are their level of understanding, what kind of resources available with us before the creation of any kind of a learning environment. So when we said the social imperatives also need to be considered in online learning environment. So what are their societal norms? What are their cultural values? Up to what extent they are able to use technological resources? What are the acceptance rate of different technological resources in educational endeavors? If it is not, how you are going to develop community that promote an awareness that make the stakeholders, family of those students aware that students nowadays are using technology for education purposes also, not only for entertainment purposes. So the first thing when it comes to the development of online learning environment, it is not only the pedagogical aspects that we need to consider, but at the same time, as per my opinion, the social aspects also need to be considered, that up to what extent my students are able to use these kind of resources. If they are not able to use these resources, what kind of awareness we as an faculty need to create so that they are able to have access to these resources. Whenever we are creating an online learning environment, there must be some sort of policy, there must be some sort of guidelines or directions need to be designed at institute level. So how you are going, if infrastructure facility is available 24 into 7, what are the different rules as a student or as a faculty I need to follow? When we are connecting with each other in an online learning environment, what kind of netiquettes rule need to be there? So maybe in my class there are 100 different participants connected from different locations, and there is a chat facility provided to all the faculty members because they all are matured enough. They are using this chat facility for education purposes or for the interaction with the faculty or expert of the session. But if in the same class, when students are there, say for example, diploma level, BTech level students available with me in an online session, maybe I'm not going to give them a chat facility because they are not matured enough to utilize the chat facility for interaction purposes that is related to instruction. I may need to create another platform where they can interact with each other, but again with the defined rules and policy and force them to follow. So whenever we are creating an online learning environment and there are specific guidelines or policy framed at institute level and force the student, give them directions to follow those parameters. Select appropriate package. So when saying that select appropriate package, if one resource is not working, it is possible for my student to dismantle that resource and shift to the another package. So that kind of option also need to be available with my student. Say if 22.7% of the faculty members said that infrastructure resources not available at institute level, but there is a demand that you are going to use online teaching learning resources at institute level. So at the same time, the teacher need to give that information to the student in a printable form, that if the facility is not available with us, at least they are able to go through that information later on. Develop good personal relationship with your students. So when we said we need to design learning communities will design when there is a social skill develop among student population. So initially we need to start with cooperative learning strategies. When once the social skill developed among student population, we need to shift from cooperative to collaborative learning strategies approaches. Create a learning space. So add some flexibility for the faculty, for the students. Create learning spaces as per the demand of the student. Shareable online learning content must be available. Most of the time, academic resources we can share from one end to another end without any hurdle, but it is always advisable that the teacher must create a tailor-made content as per the level of the students available with them. Let them work. Do not always spoon feed information. Maybe by giving them small activities, we need to provide information to the student, and we need to design their independent path of learning, so that initially within the group and after having confidence individually they are able to work upon for that online activity or for that online assignment. Supplement information if required. So when we are not spoon feeding information, we are providing flexibility to the group of the student to complete that activity on time. We must need to understand that as a teacher, I may need to advance information, I may need to provide supplementary information to my student as far as information is concerned. So these are the different aspects that we need to follow uh, for the creation of online learning environment at institute level. Now the next question arises, how has our world changed? So when we said that students are shifting a lot from one technological resources to another, digitally native students are receiving information in a really fast manner. They are able to do parallel process. They are able to do multitasking. They are preferring graphics over the text. They are able to have random access on different internet resources. They are able to better function when they are networked with each other. So when you said students are able to work in team, it means they are able to work better when they are networked with each other. They are able to provide their instant feedback to the faculty, to the group of the student. So whenever you send a text message, student responded to you with the help of an emoji. So that is an instant emotional reaction the student giving to you for your question of inquiry. So they prefer simulated kind of environment, gaming kind of an environment rather than a serious kind of assignments given by the teacher. It means our communication, our career, our method of purchase, our education changes a lot. And these are the 21st century skills that we all need working right now. Life skill, what kind of content required for the student, what kind of core subject, learning and thinking skill, and ICT inquiry. So in nutshell, when we are comparing and contrasting 20th and 21st century educational practices scale, we change the role. Our role as a teacher changed, student role also we have discussed change, their results change, instructional focus change. So many of the aspects of a classroom environment changes. So earlier there was a traditional classroom in which the projector facility, I'm not talking about those concrete classes. Uh, 3 to 4 years before also we have a classes that are equipped with all kind of projector facilities. In a very short span of time, our classes are shifted, not only the projector facility available with us, We have a facility of providing printouts to our student. Whatever I'm delivering, whatever I'm explaining by using my verbal mode, it is possible for me to give notes to my student by capturing that voice recording. It is possible for me to give the printouts of the PowerPoint presentation used by me in a classroom environment. When I'm giving or assigning activity to my student, it may not be a paper-based activity. I allow my student to use as much as any information sites they can and come up with a completed activity to me. I may assign activity that is based on the given time, but at the same time, I consider that web resources need to be provided by me because within the limited time period, it might be difficult for my student to synthesize information by using 100 different internet websites. So with an activity or with an assignment, maybe I'm going to provide additionally the web resources from where they are going to select information. So when it comes to the development of these online learning environment, as a teacher, there are many things that we need to consider that, there are many things that we need to consider. That is a professional competency as a teacher. So when I'm saying professional competency as a teacher, it means we are working in a fast changing and evolving environment where every day there is a new technology that coming in, and we as a teacher are using that technology as per the demand of our student. We need to learn new classroom management practices where I'm allowing my student to use digital devices or smart devices for their education purposes. Nowadays, students are not just listening to the information, they are critically analyzing information. So, as a teacher, I'm not just a knowledge provider. As a teacher, I need to act as a co collaborator where I'm listening to the information provided to me by my student. I may advance my information after taking inputs from my student. I may need to accept that student may have more information as compared to me. So when this kind of advanced information is flowing from one end to another end, I may need to use different kind of assessment strategies as far as their learning is concerned. So in terms of pedagogical content knowledge, there may be professional competencies as a teacher we need to develop. We need to learn a lot about classroom management practices. We need to repolish them again. We need to understand that it is not only the teacher who is delivering information, it is also the student who is delivering information to me, and I am not going to act as a directive teacher. I'm going to act as a co-collaborator in that particular learning environment. The assessment of learning is going to be changed because the student is also creating content in a class. So when we said professional competency related to your subject, the knowledge need to be updated by the teacher. Your skill, attitude, motivational variable also contribute to the mastery of teaching and learning. Knowledge of the subject content as per the Bloom's taxonomy, the teacher need to define different learning outcomes of the lesson by focusing upon the different cognitive skill and affective characteristic that we want to excel among student population. Technological knowledge, to have knowledge is one thing, to integrate that knowledge for a subject is another thing. So technology helps the faculty to design lesson and activity by using various tools for instruction, and the purpose is to help students to improve their technological skills along within the context of the coverage of the regular curriculum. The role of the teacher is changing. The role of the teacher is student assessor, curriculum evaluator, curriculum planner, course organizer, a study guide producer. A student teacher also need to act as a mentor. The teacher is also a learning facilitator. So student roles are also different. So when it comes to the development of online learning environment, informed leadership kind of style need to be followed by the teacher. So teacher will have a shared style of leadership. There is a flexibility in that particular environment. The teacher will assign responsibility to the student. The teacher will delegate different tasks and activities to the student, and student will define the accountability of the result or the result of the different assessment carry forward by the teacher. The teacher must also have a passion of learning. It is not that you have a mastery over that particular subject, but as the technology changes, the meaning of mastery is also changing nowadays. So, as a teacher, we need to understand that we need to act as a learner in that particular environmental setup, and need not to have a fixed mindset. We need to open about the question, open about the discussions carry forward by our students in a class, and most importantly, as a teacher, we need to develop an attitude and aptitude. So when we said aptitude means what kind of theoretical information you have as far as various pedagogical practices are concerned. So you must understand what kind of probable learning styles available in my class, what are the different types of learners available in my class, what kind of learning environment I may be able to create. So what are the different learning outcomes I'm going to design, and what is my expectation level that students are able to achieve those learning outcomes within the specified time period. So that kind of attitude I need to develop as a teacher. When it comes to an aptitude, it is not only the subject level mastery as a teacher I need to have, but at the same time, what kind of technological resources available with me. If the resource is not available, am I professionally trained to develop some kind of technology for my student? If my students are not available in an online environment, how I'm going to cater the needs of the student who are available with me in a physical kind of an environment? If my stakeholders are not ready with the change in education system, what kind of information, what type of content I need to create it so that they can become the part of that activity. So that kind of aptitude need to be developed in the time to come. It is not that the university or institutions are going to buy resources, and as a faculty we are going to use those resources. Maybe the university need to pay half the amount when it comes to buying those technological resources and using those technological resources. Somewhere teachers need to have professional training to shift from one technical resource to another technical resource and develop a subject by considering the importance of those learning outcomes. So the question that as a teacher we need to answer, that whatever technological platform is selected by me, how do I justify the place of technology in my classroom? So say you are using PowerPoint presentation. If your student point out that we do not need information from PowerPoint presentation, you need to provide us a recorded lecture with more detailed explanation. So it is the demand of the student population. As a teacher, I need to have a recorded lecture series for my student. So what up to what extent it is possible for me to comfortably introduce technology to my student? When we said it is very easy for me to integrate technology, it may be very easy for me to use a Google Classroom, Google Platform, LMS facility, Moodle facility, but after evaluating the performance of the student, is it possible for you to create the content as per the level of the student? So that may not be easy. Integration of technology is easy, but after evaluating the impact of technology, is the teacher capable enough to change the technological resources as per the demand of the student? So when it comes to the use of the technology, teacher is not going to be obsolete. Teacher is always a knowledge provider, and teacher will be the knowledge provider. The way the technology is changing or reshaping our classroom environment is how the teacher is integrating technology by considering all the pedagogical aspect, that student do not feel a digital pressure of a digital fluency, but student can become the part of that learning environment. So most importantly, in an online learning environment, as per my opinion, it is not the technological resources, it is the aptitude and attitude of the faculty that is going to create an educational resource. So think upon that what are the different conditions that are changing nowadays, and why we need the online learning environment or digital pedagogy at large. The first reason may be we are working in global information society. So when we said we are working in global information society, previously our education system was well equipped as per the demand of the workforce. So the work environment demand students who are very good in terms of skills, who are very good in terms of their cognitive ability and those who are good laborers. But nowadays, when we said that we are working in a global information society and demand of the workforce environment is changing a lot. So nowadays, the workforce environment demand investment in on intellect, and they want student to become more creative. So when they want student to become more creative, it means there is a different kind of a knowledge, there is a different kind of a skill or attitude need to be developed among student population so that they can be easily absorbed by the workforce. So the best is to have experiences that is different of form or different of nature so that student can become a part of that working environment. So when we said the workforce requirement are changing nowadays, the technology driven workforce in requirements are there. So when we talk about the global market in terms of the skill and innovation, so highly skilled people are required. There are uncertainties in a working environment. The workforce need to sharpen their skill, enhance their skill a lot, and higher education may be the major contributor when it becomes that a digital native student can become a lifelong learner. So basic skills need to be developed at institution level so that as per the change in the workforce requirement, the student is able to upgrade or up polish his or her skill. We are always saying that student population nowadays is digitally native population, but at the same time we need to understand that not everyone is a digitally native. So when I said not everyone is a digital native, there may be students who are very good in different creative aspects. There may be students who are ICT literate, they are knowledgeable students, but at the same time, they have certain other skills also available with them that are way more good as compared to their technological driven skills. So when we said the recreational activities, the part of the service-based society, so it may not only be the technical skills that we may require in student population to develop, but other soft skills also need to be developed at institute level. So using technology is engaging. So when the teacher is adding diversity in a classroom environment by using different technological resources as per the level of the students available, it means the teacher is adding variety to that particular information or to that particular content. So technology is very engaging. It can give vast kind of experiences to the student. As per the new education policy, also there is a demand of lifelong learning skills among student population. So educational institutions or educational outcomes, we must say, are not longer restricted to the year of formal education. So when we said lifelong learning skill, the students are willing to, the students are open to adapt to the environmental changes. The students are able to collect information from multiple resources. They are able to analyze information that is available with them. So digital fluency need to be developed at institution level and it become the habit of the student to collect information from multiple resources. So this is how we are able to develop lifelong learning capability among students by providing variety of activities to our student population. So the different aspects of digital pedagogy or in a shorter sense for online learning environment, it is your technical, pedagogical, effective competencies that as a teacher you need to develop. You need to develop that how at a classroom level you are able to create communities of students. If number of technological resources available with you, what is an appropriate resource that you select for your subject as per the demand and nature of the subject? Most importantly, as a teacher, what is your choice and comfort? Sometimes it is a pressure from the management side, but as a teacher, I also need to understand that when I'm in a class, I'm dealing with my student. I know their need. So what is their choice and comfort, and how as a faculty I can fit in with that particular choice and comfort. So social and pedagogical imperatives also need to be understood by the teacher. So, at last, when it comes to the creation of an online learning environment or using online teaching learning for an educational institution, first you need to understand the course objective. So, what kind of knowledge, skill, or attitude that you are going to develop? what is your personal style of teaching. So do not use technology just for the sake of using technology. Develop your attitude and aptitude for the use of technology, and then match that technological resources with your personal style of teaching. What kind of classroom management practices you follow? Is it more controlled or is it less controlled? Depending upon what are the different classroom management practices followed by you, likewise you are going to select different resources. Student experiences or the demand of the stakeholder. If they are experienced enough, it is possible for you to use advanced resources a lot. If they are not experienced enough, always start with a simple resource. Give that resource to your students also to have hands-on experience, and once they are experienced enough, you upgrade their level of use of technology. So this is how we can integrate technology in our teaching learning environment. So at the end, good teaching is more a giving of right question than giving of the right answer. So I always say, whether it's a digital pedagogy or you are in the process of creating an online learning environment, always have a larger objective that I'm going to design independent path of learning for my student. I'm not going to spoon feed information. I'm going to provide opportunities. I'm going to create opportunities for my student where they can collect their own information by interacting with each other. So that may be the first step when we are going to promote online learning in our institutions for student population. So thank you very much, all of you. This is all from my